Hi, this is Bradley Ryans with New York Street Talk, and I'm here with
Ray Hayden, how are you?
Hey Ray. So Ray just wrote a book about his life growing up in the New York City. It's called Queen of the S.R.O. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, anytime, bro.
Yeah,
It's good to see you.
good to see you. Good.
Same
Yeah.
old, yeah.
So this is really a fascinating
Yeah,
story.
thank you,
There's
thank you.
there's a lot, and I was reading it last night. And what inspired you to write the book?
Well, what happened was I was, after 9/11, I was a 9/11 survivor, I was a New York City firefighter. And a friend of mine, who's also my attorney, Stephen Sava, a dear friend of mine, he approached me because he's an entertainment attorney. You should write a book about, 9/11 or something to that effect, which I declined immediately because I'm not that, I don't even want to go down that road.
Yeah.
So we talked about having a crazy life and all this other stuff, and I toyed with it, writing stuff down, and I just put it to the side. But one day, what happened was I was in the city. I was driving up the West Side Highway, wasn't even thinking about writing or any of that stuff, and I passed the hotel, the S.R.O, where my mother lived, because she went there with her chemical dependency, and it was a terrible, terrible place. And when I passed it, I can't explain it, but the story fell out of my head. I pulled over, looked at the building, and I said, "This is the story."
Yeah.
Told my friend, he said, "Start writing." I said, "Okay." Never did it before. I did a very, very raw draft, over 300 pages in 40 days.
Wow.
Sent it to him. They loved it. Next thing I know, I was on a flight to Los Angeles meeting people.
Yeah.
And some people were like, "We'll try to publish the book. They'll hold off. Like, this is something for cable and or a movie." There's a lot of stuff, material in here because of some of the stuff that was in the book. One of the interesting parts being was a lot of the sub characters who were like crazies. One of them, who I can't say was crazy, was RuPaul. RuPaul
Yeah,
was
that's incredible.
one of my mother's neighbors when he
Yeah.
was an uppercomer, and they used to do shows right there, and I actually saw them do shows. I didn't know who they were. I saw for 5 minutes,
Right.
stopping in there and to check on her, and I saw one or two of those shows. So it's interesting how this all came around.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a real New York City
It really is.
story,
Right.
and there's so many moments that you can pull from that, and it's like it would be a lifetime in any other context, in any other place, but it can only happen in New York.
I know,
And
but
yeah,
and I'll tell you, I mean, what you read, it's not even close to all the material I have. I have so much material I couldn't even put it in there. It'd be
Right.
too much.
Right.
So I had to ratchet it down, edit it a few times.
Right.
I actually worked with some other people that were writers, and they taught me a few things, and I learned from there. Learned how to write some scripts, and this is years of work.
Right.
So now that's where we are right now. So we're marketing it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it sounded like it just poured out of you. Like it had to.
Right.
It was a long time coming, and that was just the right moment, right
I know.
time.
It's weird.
And then there's so many takeaways. But what's the biggest takeaway that you want others to get from this book, from reading this book?
Well, from what you read in there, the chemical dependency. Everybody I know, practically how many people you probably know that have an issue, whether it be alcohol, drugs, whatever. We all know somebody somehow, especially in a family member. Is it difficult? Is it more difficult when it's a kid trying to watch the parent? Yes, because sometimes it's usually the parent has to deal with the problem child. This is the reverse. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to relate to this. They're going to see it. And I also try to put a little humoristic twist on it with some of the crazies that were there that I even dealt with, to try to help her, but I couldn't get her out of there. And that's also was something I had to deal with. I felt feeling like a failure, but you start to learn that the only person that can help you is help yourself is yourself. It's the only person that can do it. I don't care who you are. That's it, and that's what I got to learn from it until she sadly passed.
And how has that affected your relationship with creating your own family and moving away from that role you once played?
Well, at the time, like when my wife and I when we first married, there was some difficulties, no question about it. I was helping her financially and all that, and it's definitely hard on a new couple. And then I had to lay down the law when I had children with her. I said, listen, I'm not going to expose my children to the stuff that I was exposed to. So you either get your act together or it's a done deal. You're not going to be around these kids. She kind of got it together for a little while, but then that ugly head reared itself, and I had to cut her off from the kids. I had to, you know, for their own safety.
Right.
And there were issues, there were deep issues with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And you made a life for yourself in a role that is inspired mostly by her and her experience and in being able to serve the city as a police officer. Am I right? And then a firefighter.
Well, actually, first I retired as a firefighter. Prior to that, I was a police officer, and prior to that, I was a New York City correction officer. I worked in the city jails.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, addressing that, looking back on that stuff, some people said to me that you probably did jobs like that. Hey, well, it's security and detention. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
You know, hey, listen. But the other thing is, it's also it was stability and it was order from the disorder I came from.
Right.
So maybe there's a reason why I gravitated that way, which I kind of I hit on a little bit in the book as I went through it. Because like I said, there's so much I could throw in there, but it gets overwhelming. So that's why I had to do it. And there was some pretty hardcore stuff in that story. Yeah. No, and I think it's going to be interesting once it really gets into the mainstream.
Right. Yeah. And so being in the city and knowing the city so intimately and serving this great city, what is one of the biggest things that you like about the city? What's your favorite thing about New York? What makes New York New York?
Oh, it's 24/7 resiliency. New York just, no matter what happens, rebounds. It's just, that's it. That's all you can say about it. I think that sums it up in a nutshell.
100%.
24/7 resiliency.
Resiliency.
That's it.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for your time.
You too, brother. Good seeing you, man.
Good seeing you.
You too.
Take care.